My boss said, "Pretend to be my husband for 1 year." I said, "Do we have to sleep in the same bed?" Evan Hale worked on the lower engineering levels of the Orion Gate Station, far from the glass towers where leaders met and deals were made. He liked it that way. Machines were honest. If something was broken, it showed you clearly. People were different. People hid things behind smiles, ranks, and polite words. He was human, and that mattered more than it should. In this age, humans were known as useful but replaceable. Good with tools. Good with problem solving. Not trusted with power. The Interstellar Alliance liked humans close enough to work, but far enough to control. Evan had learned this early in his career. He kept his head down, fixed what was broken, and avoided attention. That was why the message he received made his hands go cold. "Director Lyra Voss requests your presence. Immediate, executive level." Evan read it twice, hoping it would change. It did not. Director Lyra Voss was not just his boss. She was one of the highest-ranking human officials in the Alliance. She was known for her sharp mind, cold control, and impossible standards. Most people saw her only on screens. Few were called to her office without reason. Fewer left unchanged. Evan cleaned his hands, straightened his jacket, and took the lift up. Each level felt heavier than the last. The walls changed from metal to polished stone. The lights softened. Security increased. By the time he reached the executive level, he felt like he was stepping into another world. The door to her office opened silently. Lyra stood near the window, her back to him. Outside, the stars burned in slow motion, ships moving like quiet thoughts. She did not turn when he entered. "Close the door," she said. He did. "Sit," she said. He did that too. Silence filled the room. Evan waited. He had learned long ago not to speak unless asked. Finally, Lyra turned. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. They always were. She studied him like a system scan. "Evan Hale," she said. "Born on Earth. Technical specialist. No political ties. No criminal record. No known relationships." He swallowed. "Yes, Director." She nodded. "Good. That makes this easier." That sentence made it harder to breathe. "I will be direct," Lyra said. "I need you to pretend to be my husband for 1 year." The words hung in the air, heavy and unreal. Evan blinked once. Then again, "I'm sorry," he said slowly. "I think there was an error." "There was no error," she replied. "I chose you carefully." He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Director, I fix gate regulators. I don't attend galas. I don't even like crowds." "That is exactly why you are suitable," she said. He stood up without thinking. "With respect, this is not my job." Her eyes hardened just a little. "Sit down." He sat. Lyra walked to her desk and activated a privacy field. The air hummed softly. Whatever she said next was not meant for the station to hear. "The Alliance Council is watching me," she said. "They do not trust humans in leadership. They believe we lack unity, loyalty, and long-term bonds." Evan listened, confused but careful. "A political audit begins in 3 days," she continued. "They will examine my personal life as much as my work. They believe an unmarried leader is unstable." Evan frowned. "So you need an image?" "Yes," she said. "A stable human marriage. 1 year. Public. Registered." His mind raced. Why me? Because you are not ambitious, she said. Because you are unknown. Because you will not use this for power. And because you already saved this station twice without asking for credit. He had not known she noticed. Evan leaned back, feeling like the room was tilting. This is insane. Yes, she agreed. But it is necessary. He laughed once, short and nervous. Do we have to sleep in the same bed? The question slipped out before he could stop it. For a moment, Lyra looked surprised. Then she sighed.
No, this is not that kind of arrangement.
He relaxed slightly. Our quarters will be shared only when required, she added. Appearances matter. Appearances always matter, he muttered. She looked at him sharply. If this fails, Earth loses its seat. That shut him up. She activated another screen. Documents appeared. Marriage registration. Alliance law codes. Diplomatic schedules. This contract is already prepared, she said. If you refuse, the council will assume I could not find a human willing to stand beside me. Evan stared at the screen. So this isn't really a choice. It is, she said. You may say no, and accept the consequences. He thought of Earth, of the stations built by human hands but ruled by others, of every time a human idea was approved only after being spoken by a non-human mouth. He closed his eyes. 1 year, he said. That's it. 1 year, she agreed. Simple behavior, he added. No lies beyond what's required. Yes, no using me as bait without telling me. She hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. He exhaled. Fine, the system chimed. Contract accepted. Somewhere across the alliance, a status changed. Registered marital union detected. Evan felt it like a door locking behind him. The next 3 days passed too fast. Evan was moved into a new living space near Lyra's quarters. He was given formal clothing, etiquette training, and a crash course in alliance customs. He hated all of it. Smile less, one instructor said. Stand closer, another added. Touch her shoulder. Humans do that. He felt like a tool being adjusted. The first public appearance came sooner than expected. The Grand Assembly Hall was filled with representatives from dozens of species, tall, short, scaled, glowing, mechanical. Eyes followed every movement. Lyra entered first. Calm, controlled, perfect. Evan followed, heart pounding. She took his arm. That simple act sent a ripple through the room. Whispers spread. Human, married, loyal. They took their seats. A tall delegate with silver skin leaned forward. Director Voss, the delegate said smoothly. We were not informed of this development. Lyra smiled politely. It was a personal matter. The delegate's many eyes shifted to Evan. And you are Evan Hale, he said, her husband. The word felt strange. The delegate studied him. You seem, ordinary. Evan smiled, slow and human. I try to be. A few representatives laughed softly. The tension eased just a little. But Evan noticed the scanners, the focused attention. This was not just curiosity. This was judgment. Later, during a reception, a server drone malfunctioned. It spun wildly, dropping heated liquid toward a group of delegates. Evan reacted before thinking. He stepped forward, grabbed the drone mid-spin, and slammed the emergency shutdown. The liquid splashed harmlessly onto the floor. Silence followed. Several non-human delegates stared at him. Lyra looked at him too. something unreadable in her eyes. Security rushed in, but the moment had passed. A small reptilian ambassador spoke quietly. Protective, protective. Evan shrugged. Habit. The word spread faster than he expected. Protective. Human. Husband. That night, Evan returned to his assigned quarters, exhausted. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. This was not his life anymore. A message blinked on his console. Private channel. Director Voss. He accepted. You did well today, she said. I just stopped a machine, he replied. In front of the right audience, she said. There was a pause. This will get harder, she added. I know, he said. She hesitated. Someone tried to sabotage that drone. His head snapped up. What? It was meant to cause panic, she said. Possibly injury. Evan's stomach tightened. So this is already dangerous? Yes. He laughed softly.
Great. Get some rest, Lyra said. Tomorrow we are officially announced to the wider alliance.
The channel closed. Evan lay back, staring at the ceiling. He was just an engineer. Now he was a symbol. Somewhere in the depths of the station, unseen systems shifted. Hidden watchers took notes. Plans adjusted. The game had begun. And Evan had no idea how high the cost would be. Evan woke early, before the station lights brightened the corridors. The room he now shared with Director Lyra was larger than any apartment he had known on Earth, but it felt empty. Machines hummed softly in the background, and beyond the reinforced glass, the stars moved silently. He dressed slowly, his mind replaying the previous day. The announcement had changed everything. Delegates across the Alliance now treated him differently, not as a human engineer, but as Lyra's husband. The term made him uneasy. He did not feel married. He did not feel powerful. He only felt watched. Breakfast was a quiet affair. The station's dining hall had been redesigned to impress visitors, with light panels mimicking sunlight and tables floating in low gravity. Evan followed the etiquette lessons he had been given. He remained polite, spoke little, and smiled when necessary. Lyra arrived shortly after him, her presence calm and deliberate. "Good morning," she said, sliding into the seat opposite him. Her voice was smooth, authoritative, and familiar in a way he did not expect.
"Morning," Evan replied. He poured himself some nutrient paste from a dispenser.
Tasteless but filling. "Today we attend the Xenon Council briefing," Lyra said. "You must appear confident. Stand as my equal, but do not speak unless spoken to." Evan nodded, though inside he was unsure if he could manage confidence under the gaze of alien delegates. The Xenon Council represented multiple systems, each with its own agenda. As humans, they were still considered newcomers, workers, rather than leaders. Evan had seen this bias firsthand. Now, however, he was part of the image Lyra wanted to project. A stable human partner, loyal and intelligent. They entered the council chamber together. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the room. Some had translucent skin showing internal organs. Others had multiple limbs or heads. All stared at them. The air smelled faintly of ozone, a side effect of the chamber's climate controls. A tall, armored delegate approached. His voice was deep and resonant, vibrating slightly in the chest. "Director Voss, your presence is noted. And your companion?" "This is my husband, Evan Hale," Lyra said simply. Her eyes flicked to Evan for reassurance. The delegate's many eyes studied him, scanning for weakness.
Human.
Interesting choice. Evan nodded stiffly. "Pleased to meet you." The council session began. Reports were read aloud, projections presented, and debates erupted over trade, security, and alliances. Evan stayed silent, observing. He noticed small things that the council did not: micro-expressions, flickers of motion, changes in tone, patterns.
Systems. During a break, he wandered near the observation windows.
Ships drifted outside, some carrying humans, others entirely alien crews. A subtle warning sounded in his mind. These ships were not just transport, they were potential threats. Some had cloaking fields, others carried weapons that could destroy sections of the station without warning. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You are thinking too much like an engineer," Lyra said, appearing beside him. "I notice details," Evan said. "That is all. They will notice you noticing," she replied. "You must be careful. One mistake could make them doubt not only me, but humanity as a whole." Evan frowned. "So even small actions can become political weapons."
Yes, Lyra said. That is why you are here.
"Not just for appearances, but for the subtle strength you project. Humans can surprise others with courage and intelligence, but only if guided." Evan glanced at her. "And if I fail?" Lyra's eyes were calm. "Then we fail, and not just us. Earth suffers." The words settled heavily in his chest. Later, the council resumed. During a demonstration of new energy conduits, a malfunction occurred. A small explosion of sparks erupted near the alien delegates. Panic began to rise. Delegates moved back. Machines beeped warnings. Evan reacted immediately. He leapt forward, adjusting the conduit controls. Sparks died out. He opened a vent to release trapped gas. "The risk was small, but visible," delegates murmured. Some stared, impressed. Others looked skeptical. Lyra watched him closely. "Well done," she whispered after the event. "You saved the demonstration without breaking protocol." Evan exhaled, relief mixed with unease. He had acted instinctively, but instinct was dangerous here. Every action was scrutinized. Every mistake could be used against him, or worse, against Earth. After the session, he and Lyra returned to her quarters. The corridors were quiet. Shadows stretched along the polished walls. Evan thought about the day. He had been tested, and he had passed. But he knew this was only the beginning. "Tomorrow, we meet the Zalari," Lyra said. "They are suspicious of humans. Careful words, calm gestures. And remember, you must always appear as my equal, yet subordinate. The paradox is necessary." "I think I understand," Evan said, though he was not certain. Night came. The station's lights dimmed. Outside, stars stretched endlessly. Evan lay in his assigned quarters, staring at the ceiling panels. Images of alien faces, council chambers, and malfunctioning machines played in his mind. He was an engineer, trained to solve problems with logic and tools, not with diplomacy or politics. Yet now he was required to do both, under the gaze of an entire interstellar alliance. A soft knock came at the door. Lyra entered. "You should rest," she said. "Tomorrow will be harder." "I will," Evan replied. She paused. "I know this is difficult. You must remember why you agreed." "To protect Earth," he said. "Yes," she said, "and to show that humans are more than laborers, more than replaceable parts. You and I together are a symbol." Evan stared at her. A symbol. He did not feel symbolic. He felt small. Yet, a spark of determination lit inside him. If he could survive this, if he could navigate the games, He might change how humans were seen forever. The next day came too soon. The Zolari meeting was tense. The Zolari were taller than most humans, their skin dark and reflective. Their leader, a narrow-eyed figure with long fingers, spoke directly to Lyra. "We do not trust humans in positions of authority. You have chosen an unusual companion." Evan forced a smile. "I am here to assist, nothing more. I respect the council and its wisdom." The Zolari studied him, their eyes narrowing. "And yet, you are presented as her equal?" "Yes," Evan said. "I support Director Voss as any partner would. Our union is genuine in purpose, not only in name." The council chamber grew quiet. Murmurs passed among delegates. Some alien leaders leaned forward, intrigued. Others whispered in tones Evan could not understand. He realized something important. Even though this was supposed to be a fake marriage, even though it was political theater, his actions mattered. His intelligence, his calmness, his courage, these could shift opinions. Humans could no longer be ignored as simple laborers. During a break, he noticed subtle signs of surveillance: hidden cameras, drones, small probes in vents. Someone was watching closely. Not just the council. Someone wanted to know how he and Lyra operated together. "I saw the probes," he whispered to Lyra later. "They are always watching," she said. "You must move as though nothing is different. Only then will they underestimate you." Evan nodded. Fear and adrenaline mingled. He was no longer simply Evan Hale, engineer. He was a human representative, a symbol, and a target. That night, as he prepared for bed, a sudden alarm rang through the station. Red lights flashed. A gravity field fluctuated in one of the residential sectors. Panic spread quickly. Lyra's voice came over the comm system. "Secure the civilians. Maintain calm." Evan acted without hesitation. He ran to the nearest hatch, helping residents stabilize in the shifting gravity. He moved with precision, giving orders where he could, using both logic and authority. Lyra joined him, commanding security teams. Together, they guided civilians to safety. Delegates outside observed the human efficiency and courage. The crisis ended with no injuries, but the message was clear. Humans could act decisively under pressure. Humans could protect more than just themselves. Afterward, Lyra looked at Evan. Her eyes softened slightly. "You did more than perform," she said. "You proved something important. Not just to them, but to me." Evan felt an unfamiliar pride, but it was mixed with fear. This fake marriage, this role he had been forced into, was not only about appearances. It was about survival, politics, and the fragile reputation of humanity in the stars. As he lay in his quarters that night, exhausted but alert, he realized that every day ahead would test him further. The alliance was vast, the threats subtle and deadly, and someone inside the station might already be plotting against them. For the first time, Evan understood the real meaning of being more than an engineer. He was now a protector, a symbol, and a participant in a game far larger than he had ever imagined. And there was no turning back. The stars outside seemed colder that night, watching silently. Evan closed his eyes, knowing tomorrow the real challenges would begin. Evan woke to the faint hum of the station, his body stiff from sleep. The events of the last few days ran through his mind. The announcement, the council meetings, the sudden alarm. Each memory reminded him that this was no ordinary assignment. He was no longer just an engineer. He was part of a performance meant to prove humanity's value. and every step carried weight. He dressed quickly, checking the compact mirror beside the door. His reflection showed someone tired but alert, ready to face whatever challenges the day would bring. Lyra's voice came through the comm panel. "Meet me in the control center."
We have a problem. The control center was alive with activity.
Screens displayed real-time data from the station's energy grids, life support, and observation decks. Engineers moved quickly, some human, some alien, all tense. Lyra stood at the main console, her expression focused. "What's wrong?" Evan asked, approaching. "Gravity ring instability," she said. "Sector 3 shows fluctuations. Could be a mechanical failure or sabotage." Evan's stomach tightened. "Sabotage?" Lyra nodded. "Possibly. We are not out of danger yet." They moved together toward the affected sector. The corridor lights dimmed and the hum of the station deepened. Evan noticed that surveillance drones were unusually active. Someone was watching their every step. When they reached the sector, the gravity field wavered. Objects floated erratically, and small fires sparked from damaged conduits. Civilians panicked, and some aliens fell awkwardly, struggling against shifting forces. "Guide them to safety," Lyra commanded. "I will stabilize the main controls." Evan jumped into action. He moved among the panicked residents, steadying bodies and guiding them towards safe zones. His hands worked quickly, adjusting small devices to counteract the field fluctuations. Each movement had to be precise. One mistake could injure dozens. Meanwhile, Lyra operated the central console. Lights flashed, alarms beeped, and pressure panels clicked as she manipulated the station's systems with calm authority. Evan watched her work, noting the precision and the trust she inspired. Together they made a team. A sudden jolt threw Evan against a wall. Sparks flew from a damaged panel nearby. He felt the heat brush his arm, but he ignored the sting. Adjusting a stabilizer, he restored partial control to the gravity field. A small cheer rose from the crowd. Lyra's eyes met his, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. The fluctuation settled, but not completely. Evan realized the situation was bigger than a simple malfunction. The system's core modules were being tampered with, likely by someone with knowledge of station operations. "We need to find the source," he said, moving toward a maintenance hatch. "Take security with you," Lyra said. "I'll hold the main console. We cannot lose control again." Evan nodded and activated the hatch. Inside, the narrow maintenance tunnels twisted through the station. He followed the cables, watching for any irregularity. A small device blinked in a corner, a disruption probe. Someone had placed it there to interfere with the gravity stabilizers. He called security and reported the device. "It's sabotage. Someone wants the station to fail," he said. "Agreed," Lyra replied over comm. "Find the rest. Be careful. This is not just machinery. They want chaos." Evan moved deeper, tracing cables and scanning for anomalies. Every turn revealed more devices, small and hidden. Whoever was behind this knew the station intimately. He realized this was a coordinated effort. Finally, he reached a sealed maintenance bay. Inside, a humanoid figure was working quickly, adjusting controls. The figure froze when Evan entered. "Stop!" Evan shouted. The figure turned, masked, gloved, careful. Then, without hesitation, they fled into a side corridor. Evan pursued, but the maze-like tunnels made it difficult. His communicator crackled with Lyra's voice. "Focus on containment, not capture," she said. "Keep the civilians safe." Evan cursed under his breath but obeyed. He redirected his energy to stabilizing the remaining systems. With precise adjustments, the gravity field steadied completely. People breathed easier. Aliens and humans alike looked at him differently. He was not just an assistant or a placeholder. He was capable, decisive. By the time he returned to Lyra, she had already secured the main controls and analyzed the sabotage points. Her gaze met his. "Well done," she said. "You saved the station and, more importantly, proved humans can act under pressure." Evan exhaled, realizing how exhausted he was. "I didn't even see who did it." "That doesn't matter right now," Lyra said. "They will try again. But they will think twice about underestimating humans." The rest of the day was a blur of meetings and inspections. Evan walked beside Lyra through crowded corridors, keeping a careful smile for delegates who whispered behind his back. Some eyes studied him with suspicion, others with curiosity. Every glance reminded him that he was no longer just Evan Hale. During a private moment, Lyra spoke softly. "Do you understand why I chose you?" Evan thought for a moment. "Because I am ordinary?" "Because you are not ordinary," she corrected. "You act without ego. You think clearly. You protect, you analyze, you adapt. Most humans can do this. You can do it without needing credit." He nodded, humbled, but aware of the weight of her words. The fake marriage was teaching him more than he expected. It was a test, a demonstration, and perhaps a lesson about what humans were capable of. Later, he found a quiet corner near the observation deck. The stars stretched infinitely, ships gliding silently in formation. He thought about the sabotage, about the council, about Lyra. She was brilliant, commanding, and dangerous, but not cruel. She saw him for more than a human worker. His thoughts were interrupted by a soft ping on his console. A private message, anonymous. "Warning, do not trust all within the station. Sabotage may be inside Lyra's command team." Evan froze. Someone inside their own security network was working against them. This was no longer just a political performance. It was a battle. He called Lyra. "Someone inside the station may be sabotaging us."
"I've found devices, but there may be more."
She did not react with surprise. "I suspected," she said. "You did well by containing the threat. Tomorrow we start uncovering the source. Discretion is crucial." "You are human, yes, but sharp. We will need every advantage." Evan felt the weight of responsibility. This fake marriage was no longer about appearances. It was about survival, strategy, and protecting the humans he represented. That night, he could not sleep. The station lights dimmed, casting long shadows. Somewhere beyond the glass walls, alien ships passed, silent and unjudging. He thought about the anonymous warning and about the people who might betray them. Evan realized something important. In this role, he could either falter or rise. Every decision mattered. His courage, intelligence, and instincts were now tools for diplomacy, survival, and politics. The next day would bring more tests, more observers, more attempts to destabilize the station. He was ready, but he knew that readiness alone was not enough. Strategy, timing, and trust would be everything. As he lay awake, he glanced at the console. A list of maintenance points, energy nodes, and security feeds blinked silently. Each represented both opportunity and threat. He made a mental note: observe, act, and never underestimate the cunning of others. Outside, the stars continued their slow march across the void. Evan felt a strange sense of calm amid the tension. He was no longer just an engineer. He was a symbol, a protector, and a player in a game larger than he had ever imagined. And the game had only just begun. Evan had barely slept when the summons arrived. Alliance Security requests Evan Hale for formal questioning. Immediate attendance required. He stared at the message for several seconds. He already knew what it meant. After the sabotage, after the anonymous warning, someone needed a suspect. And the easiest suspect was always human. He informed Lyra at once. "They are moving faster than I expected," she said calmly, though her jaw tightened. "This will not be a friendly conversation." "I figured," Evan replied. "Do you want me to say anything specific?" "Only the truth," she said. "And say it clearly. Do not show fear. They respect control, not emotion." He nodded. "And if they try to pin this on me, they will," she said. "That is why you must not break." The security wing of the station was colder than the rest. The walls were dark metal, the lights harsh and white. Evan was escorted into an interrogation chamber by 2 guards who did not speak. The door sealed behind him with a heavy sound that echoed in his chest. The room was simple. 1 table, 1 chair, 3 observers behind a transparent energy screen. They were not human. A voice filled the room. "Evan Hale, you are aware why you are here?" "Yes," Evan said. "Because of the sabotage." "You were present at the scene," the voice continued. "You accessed restricted systems. You intervened without direct authorization." "I acted to protect civilians and stabilize the station," Evan said. "If I had waited, people would have been injured or killed." The observers shifted slightly. One leaned forward. "You are not security," another voice said. "You are not command. Why did you take control?" Evan met their gaze. "Because I knew how. And because doing nothing would have been worse." Silence followed. Evan kept his breathing steady. He remembered Lyra's words. "Control, not emotion." "Some would call that insubordination," the first voice said. "Some would call it responsibility," Evan replied. A faint murmur passed between the observers. "You are Director Voss's spouse," another said. "Your actions could be seen as coordinated." Evan did not hesitate. "If I were coordinating sabotage, I would not stop it. I would let it succeed." That answer caused another pause. They questioned him for hours. They asked about his past, his work, his loyalty, his intentions. They replayed footage of his movements, slowed down his reactions, analyzed his expressions. They tried to confuse him with contradictions and pressure. Evan answered everything simply. When he did not know, he said so. When he disagreed, he explained why. He did not raise his voice. He did not beg. He did not accuse. Slowly, the tone changed. The questions became less sharp, less hostile. Finally, the voice spoke again. "You show unusual mental endurance for a human." Evan shrugged lightly. "I fix broken systems." "This is just another system." That answer stayed with them. When the door finally opened, Evan stood slowly. His legs felt weak, but his mind was clear. Outside, Lyra was waiting. "They tried to break you," she said quietly as they walked.
"They failed," he replied. "Yes," she said.
And they noticed. News spread quickly through the station. Human engineer withstands full alliance interrogation without mental collapse. Human logic counters alliance pressure tactics. For the first time, humans were not spoken of as fragile. But not everyone was pleased. Later that day, Lyra called a private meeting in her office. Only 3 people attended. Lyra, Evan, and her senior operations advisor, a quiet man named Aaron. Aaron had worked with Lyra for years. He was efficient, loyal, and rarely spoke unless necessary.
"We have a problem," Lyra said.
The sabotage was internal. Someone with high-level access. Aran nodded. Security logs were altered. Only a few could do that. Evan listened carefully.
We are narrowing it down, Aaron continued, but the council is pressuring us.
They want a resolution, quickly, and they want a human culprit. Evan said. Aran did not deny it. They see opportunity, Lyra said. If Earth appears unstable, they can push new restrictions. Evan leaned forward.
Then we need proof, not suspicion.
Proof they cannot ignore. That will take time, Aran said. Time we may not have, Lyra replied. That evening, a formal alliance inquiry was announced. Public! Broadcast! Every major species watching. Lyra stood at the center platform. Evan stood beside her. The chamber was filled. A council representative spoke. Director Voss, recent events have raised concerns about internal security and human influence. Evan felt the tension ripple through the room. We request a full disclosure, the representative continued, including the role of your spouse. Lyra nodded once. Agreed. Screens lit up around the chamber. Evan stepped forward.
I will speak, he said. Murmurs rose.
I am human, Evan continued. I am an engineer. I was brought into this role to support Director Voss publicly. That much is true. Several delegates leaned in. But I did not sabotage this station, he said, and neither did she. He raised his hand, and a data stream appeared. He had spent the last night working quietly. These are system traces, Evan said. They show the sabotage devices were installed during maintenance windows when Director Voss and I were not present. The room grew quiet. These logs were partially erased, he added. But human systems use redundancy. You missed one layer. A few alien delegates exchanged looks. The access codes used belong to Alliance security, Evan said. Not engineering, not command, security. The representative stiffened. Are you accusing the Alliance? I am presenting facts, Evan said calmly. Lyra watched him closely. She had not known he prepared this. This does not name an individual, the representative said. No, Evan agreed. But it removes suspicion from humans, and it proves the threat is internal. Silence followed. Finally, another delegate spoke. The human is thorough. The inquiry was suspended. Not concluded, but paused. That pause mattered. After the session, Lyra confronted Evan in private. You went beyond what I expected, she said. You said tell the truth, Evan replied. So I did. With evidence. She studied him for a long moment.
You are becoming dangerous, she said finally.
Only to people who hide things, he answered. For the first time, she smiled. Just a little. That night, the anonymous messages returned. You are closer now. Be careful. The faction wants Earthbound by marriage law. Evan frowned. Marriage law. He brought it to Lyra at once. They want to control Earth through symbolic unity, she said slowly. If they can define human bonds legally, they can shape our leadership. And this marriage, Evan said.
It's part of that. Yes, she said.
They expected it to be weak, performative, easy to exploit. Evan looked at her. They didn't expect us. No, she said. They didn't. But the pressure increased. Security patrols doubled. Surveillance increased. Some delegates stopped speaking to Evan entirely. Others watched him with new interest. One evening, as Evan walked alone through a quiet corridor, the lights flickered. A voice spoke behind him. You should not be here. He turned. A figure stood in the shadows, Alliance uniform, face calm. You are making things difficult, the figure said. Humans were not meant to play this game. Evan held his ground. Then why are you so worried? The figure stepped closer. Because you are changing the rules. Alarms suddenly sounded nearby. The figure vanished into a side passage. Security arrived seconds later. Evan reported everything. The net was tightening, but so was the danger. Later, Lyra stood by the window watching the stars. They will escalate, she said. They will try to remove you, or me. Evan joined her. Then we don't give them the chance. She looked at him. You were supposed to be a shield, a symbol. And now, he said, I'm a problem. Yes, she said softly. For them. Outside, the station moved steadily through space. Inside, lines were being drawn. And for the first time, the Alliance realized something unsettling. The human was not breaking. He was adapting. And that made him far more dangerous than they had planned. The tension on the station became heavier with every passing hour. Evan could feel it in the way people watched him, in the way conversations stopped when he entered a room. Security patrols moved in tighter patterns. Doors took longer to open. Systems asked for more confirmations than before. The station was preparing for something, even if no one said it out loud. Lyra called Evan to her office early in the cycle. They are forcing a decision, she said as soon as he entered. The Alliance Council has scheduled a unity ceremony. Evan frowned. Unity ceremony sounds harmless. It is not, Lyra replied. It is where they test loyalty, where leaders are measured, where symbols are used, and we are one of those symbols. Evan said. Yes, she said. They want to see if humans bend. The ceremony would be held in the central gathering hall, the largest open space on the station. Delegates from every major power would attend. It would be broadcast across Alliance networks. There would be no room for mistakes. Evan spent the day reviewing security layouts and emergency routes. Something felt wrong. The sabotage attempts, the interrogation, the pressure. It all pointed toward a final move. That night, another message arrived on his private console. Tomorrow they will try to end this. Protect her. Protect yourself. No signature. No trace. Evan showed it to Lyra. They are warning us, she said. Or testing us. Either way, Evan replied. Someone plans violence. Yes, she said calmly. Which means we must be ready. The day of the ceremony arrived. The central hall was transformed. Light panels glowed with soft colors. Flags and symbols of dozens of species floated in controlled gravity fields. Music hummed low and steady, designed to calm nervous minds. Evan stood beside Lyra at the entrance platform. She wore her formal command attire. He wore a simple but precise uniform, nothing flashy, human, clean. Ha 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 ha. Controlled. As they stepped forward together, the hall fell quiet. Eyes followed them, some with curiosity, some with respect, some with hatred. The ceremony began with long speeches about cooperation and shared future. Evan listened, but stayed alert. He scanned the crowd, the balconies, the ceiling structures. Too many blind spots, too many moving parts. Lyra leaned slightly toward him. I sense it too, she whispered. Stay close. When the speeches ended, the ceremonial walk began. Leaders moved through the hall in symbolic unity. Lyra and Evan followed the marked path. That was when it happened. A sharp crack echoed through the hall. Then another, the sound of energy weapons discharging. Panic exploded instantly. Delegates screamed. Security rushed in all directions. Light panels shattered, raining fragments down. A blast struck the platform ahead, throwing bodies aside. "Down!" Evan shouted. He grabbed Lyra and pulled her to the floor as another shot tore through the air above them. Heat burned past his shoulder. He felt pain explode along his side. But he did not let go. Security shields activated too late. The attackers had planned this moment carefully. Evan pushed himself up despite the pain, placing his body between Lyra and the direction of fire. His mind focused sharply, blocking out everything else. He saw the shooter. Elevated position. Disguised as support staff. Evan grabbed a fallen security unit and fired back, forcing the attacker to retreat. Another blast hit the floor near him. Shrapnel tore into his leg. He fell, but he stayed conscious. Lyra was shouting orders, her voice clear and commanding, even in chaos. Security teams responded fast now, surrounding the attackers, driving them back. The hall became a battlefield for a few terrifying minutes. Then it was over. The attackers were dead or captured. The hall was damaged, but the leadership lived. Evan lay on the floor, breathing hard, blood soaking into the fabric beneath him. His vision blurred. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands pressing against his wounds. "Stay with me," she said. He managed a weak smile. "Guess I failed at staying in the background." Medical teams rushed in, lifting him onto a stretcher. As they moved him through the hall, Evan caught glimpses of the delegates. They were staring at him, not with suspicion, with shock, with something close to respect. Human shields leader with own body. Human does not retreat.
Human protects.
The word spread faster than the blood he left behind. Evan drifted in and out of awareness as he was taken to the medical wing. Pain surged and faded. Voices echoed. When he finally woke, the lights were soft and dim. Lyra was there.
You scared everyone.
She said quietly,
Sorry.
"You were shot protecting me," she replied. "Do not apologize." He tried to sit up. Pain stopped him. "What happened after?" he asked. "The attackers were linked to a fringe alliance faction," she said. "They believed removing you would weaken me. Removing me would weaken Earth." "And now," Evan said. "Now," she replied, "they failed." She hesitated. "The footage is everywhere," she continued. "Your actions were broadcast live before the feeds cut. The Alliance saw a human take fire without hesitation." Evan closed his eyes. "I just did what was right," he said. "That," Lyra replied, "is what terrifies them." Over the next days, Evan remained in recovery. His injuries were serious but not fatal. The medical staff worked carefully, mixing human and alien techniques. Visitors came in controlled numbers. Some were human engineers. Some were alien delegates. They came not to question, but to observe, to understand. The council session resumed without ceremony. This time, the tone was different. A senior delegate addressed the chamber. "Recent events have demonstrated unexpected human behavior. Unexpected." Evan watched the broadcast from his bed. "Courage," the delegate continued. "Loyalty, willingness to sacrifice for leadership stability." Another delegate spoke. "The humans' actions prevented a greater crisis. We must reassess our assumptions." The vote that followed did not end the conflict, but it shifted the balance. Humans were no longer viewed as weak partners. They were now variables that could not be ignored. Later, Lyra visited again. They offered me a position, she said quietly. Evan looked at her. What kind? Supreme Coordinator for Alliance Internal Security, she said. With conditions. Evan already knew. You cut ties with Earth. Yes, she said. And with you. Silence filled the room. And what did you say? Evan asked.
I said no, she replied. He looked at her, surprised.
They believe power is more important than trust, she said. They are wrong. She looked at him steadily.
You changed this, she added. Your actions forced them to see humans differently.
Forced me to choose differently. Evan felt something tighten in his chest, stronger than pain.
I was just pretending to be your husband, he said softly. Lyra shook her head. Pretending ended when you took that shot. Outside the medical wing, the station moved quietly through space. Repairs were underway. Life continued, but something fundamental had shifted. The Alliance had tried to break a symbol. Instead, they had forged one. Evan rested back against the bed, exhaustion finally taking him. He did not know how this would end. He only knew one thing for certain. Humans were no longer background noise in the galaxy. They had been heard. And the Alliance would never forget the day a human stood still in the line of fire and refused to fall away. The station had returned to an uneasy calm. Repairs were ongoing, patrols doubled, and every corner seemed to hold a watchful eye. Yet inside the walls, a quiet sense of change lingered. Evan Hale walked slowly through the corridors, still weak from his injuries but more alert than ever. Every step reminded him that he was no longer just an engineer or a placeholder. He had become a symbol. Lyra met him at the Central Command. Her presence was steady, commanding, and calm, yet her eyes held something Evan had not seen before. Respect, perhaps even trust. They have requested a final session, she said. A hearing to conclude the events of the last week. Do we have to attend together? Evan asked, still adjusting to his new role.
Yes, Lyra said simply.
Your presence is essential. You are part of the symbol now. They cannot ignore it. The council chamber was filled once more. Delegates of every kind, shapes, and species watched silently. The room smelled faintly of ozone and metal polish. Holographic displays floated in mid-air, showing footage from the sabotage, the ceremony, and the moments when Evan had shielded Lyra. Evan felt every gaze on him. Some eyes were curious, some skeptical, but most were quietly impressed. This was no longer a test of appearances. It was a test of value. A senior council delegate, a four-limbed being with reflective skin, addressed the room. Director Voss, Mr. Corey. Hail. Recent events have demonstrated both courage and competence. Yet questions remain. Lyra stepped forward. We are prepared to provide clarity. Evan moved beside her, standing tall despite the aches in his body. The council's eyes flicked between them, calculating, observing, evaluating. We have identified the faction responsible for the sabotage, Lyra began. They acted to destabilize this station and, through it, human leadership. They were internal. Their attempt was precise but ultimately unsuccessful due to human and allied intervention. She gestured to Evan. Mr. Hale's actions ensured that no lives were lost. His quick thinking, courage, and understanding of systems prevented a catastrophe. Evan's heart raced. He had never imagined standing here praised before such an audience. Yet the praise was not for appearances. It was for actions, for intelligence, for bravery. One delegate spoke, skeptical. This is unprecedented. A human acting in such a capacity. How do we know this is replicable? Evan answered without hesitation. I am human. I acted because I could, and because it was necessary. This is not about me. It is about potential. Another delegate, smaller and with glowing eyes, leaned forward. You put yourself at risk to protect the director. Did you not fear for your life? Yes, Evan said, but responsibility outweighed fear. Fear does not solve problems. Action does. Even the harshest critics could not ignore the truth in his voice. After hours of questions and analysis, the council convened privately. When they returned, the decision was clear.
The human has demonstrated qualities beyond expectation, the senior delegate announced.
Courage, loyalty, intelligence, and the capacity to protect leadership under threat. These qualities are to be recognized. The symbolic marital bond has served its purpose, showing humans are capable of more than previously acknowledged. Evan listened, his chest tight. Recognition. Validation. Not for obedience, not for submission, but for being himself. A human capable of reason, courage, and adaptation. Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable but softening. You changed the outcome, she said quietly. I just did what was right, Evan replied, shrugging slightly. Doing what is right, she said, sometimes changes more than you imagine. You saved lives, you saved the station, and you saved humanity from underestimation. The council offered Lyra a high command position with the stipulation of severing ties with Earth. She refused. She recognized that humanity itself had value and that no personal gain could replace that truth. Evan stood beside her, silent but supportive. The choice had been hers, but it could not have been made without him. In the days that followed, the station slowly returned to normal. Repairs continued, patrols relaxed slightly. Delegates spoke differently of humans. They were no longer background workers, easily dismissed. Humans had proven courage, intelligence, and loyalty. They had value beyond utility. Evan's role as Lyra's husband officially ended when the ceremonial year concluded. Yet the bond they had formed, forged under crisis and mutual respect, could not be undone. The fake marriage had become a real partnership of minds, a testament to human worth in a galaxy that often undervalued them. As the final ceremony ended, Lyra turned to Evan. You did not just pretend. You showed who humans are capable of being. Evan looked out the windows at the stars, blinking back emotions he had not expected. I never thought a year pretending could feel real. She smiled faintly. Sometimes what begins as pretense becomes truth in ways we cannot predict. Evan nodded, thinking of Earth, the station, the delegates, and the countless humans who would benefit from this recognition. Humanity had been tested, and now it stood taller. Are you going to stay? Lyra asked softly, breaking the silence. Evan considered it, not as a spouse, not as a symbol, but as a human who had proven that courage and intelligence could matter. I will, he said finally, for as long as it matters. Outside, the station drifted quietly through the void. Ships moved in formation, systems hummed with renewed life, and the stars stretched endlessly. The Alliance had been challenged, humanity recognized, and a new balance had begun. Evan Hale, engineer, protector, and symbol, stood beside Lyra. The fake marriage was over. The real legacy had just begun. And somewhere, in the silence of space, the galaxy had begun to see humans in a new light. No longer as tools, no longer as workers, but as beings capable of courage, loyalty, and wisdom. And that truth would resonate far beyond the station walls.